Good morning, my dears. Come on in. Have a seat here on the porch with me. It's a beautiful, quiet morning, just perfect for a cup of coffee and a story. The story I'm going to share with you today isn't one you'll find in the headlines. It's not about fame or fortune. It's a true story, one about deep faith, unimaginable pain, and the incredible, steadfast mercy of our God. It begins with a woman who came from overseas, filled with dreams. She met and married a wonderful American man, and their love for each other was a beautiful thing to see. Like many young couples, their greatest desire was to build a family, to fill their home with the laughter of children. But as the years ticked by, that dream seemed to move further and further away. Month after month, year after year, her arms remained empty. The longing in her heart grew into a constant ache. They prayed together, their hopes rising and falling with each passing season. They sought advice. They tried every natural path they could think of. But still, nothing. It was a heavy cross to bear, a quiet sorrow that lived within their home. Finally, after so much waiting and so much heartache, their doctors suggested IVF. For those who don't know, that's a medical journey, and it's not an easy one. It's a path paved with needles, powerful medicines that mess with your body and your emotions, and so much waiting. Every injection was a prayer, every appointment a test of faith. The process was physically draining and emotionally exhausting. It felt like a constant battle between hope and despair. But this woman, she held on. She and her husband leaned on each other and on their faith, believing that God had a plan, even if they couldn't see it. And then, one day, the impossible happened. A phone call that changed everything. The doctor's voice on the other end confirmed it. She was pregnant. But that wasn't all. She was pregnant with twins. Can you imagine that moment? After years of barrenness, years of tears shed in secret, God hadn't just given her a child. He had given her double for her trouble. Her joy was immeasurable. It overflowed, spilling out into every corner of her life. She would walk around her house, gently touching her belly, already dreaming of 2 little ones. She believed with every fiber of her being that this was it, the miracle she had prayed for. God had heard her cries and had finally answered. But life, my dears, often takes turns we never see coming. Just as she was settling into the beautiful reality of her pregnancy, at 4 months along, tragedy struck. She lost both babies, both heartbeats, gone. The joy that had filled her up so completely was snatched away in an instant, leaving a void so vast, so dark, it felt like it would swallow her whole. Her heart didn't just break, it shattered into 1,000,000 pieces. The grief was a physical weight, pressing down on her, stealing her breath. She cried out to God, her questions echoing in the silence. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you give me this incredible joy, this perfect gift, only to tear it away from me? Why let me see the promised land, only to slam the door in my face?" It was a crisis of faith, a wrestling with the goodness of a God who had allowed such profound suffering. The silence from heaven felt deafening. Just 2 months after this devastating loss, while she was still navigating the depths of her grief, another storm gathered on the horizon. She started to feel unwell, a cough, a fever. Soon it became clear this was no ordinary flu. It was COVID, and it hit her with a terrifying force. Her breathing became labored, each inhale a struggle, each exhale a gasp. It felt like an invisible hand was squeezing her lungs shut. Her condition deteriorated rapidly. Her husband rushed her to the hospital, where her oxygen levels were dangerously low. The doctors did everything they could, But the virus was relentless, soon. She was so sick, so weak, that they had to place her on a ventilator to breathe for her. Her body, already weakened by grief, began to shut down. She couldn't move. She couldn't speak. She was trapped inside a body that was failing her. The doctors spoke to her husband in hushed, somber tones. They prepared him for the worst. They said there was little more they could do. From a medical standpoint, there was no hope. It seemed her story was coming to a tragic end. Everyone around her began to lose faith that she would ever wake up, that she would ever come home. But you see, my dears, when doctors say there is no hope, that is precisely when God loves to show up and do His greatest work. In that dark hospital room, when all human effort had failed, God leaned down and whispered, "Live." And a miracle began to unfold, slowly, almost imperceptibly at first. One day, a finger twitched. Just a tiny movement, but it was a sign of life, a flicker of hope in the darkness. Her husband, who had been sitting by her side day and night, saw it and his heart leaped. Then a few days later she moved her arm. The nurses were astonished. Then, after what felt like an eternity, she was able to breathe on her own, and the ventilator was removed. Her journey back to life was like watching a baby learn to exist in the world. She had to learn everything all over again: how to sit up, how to hold a spoon, how to take a step. Each small victory was a monumental achievement. Her first shaky step, holding onto the rails of her hospital bed, was a testament not just to her own willpower, but to the power of the God who had refused to let her go. She knew, deep in her soul, that this wasn't just about medicine. This was grace. This was a divine intervention. God had literally pulled her back from the edge of death and set her feet on solid ground. He had given her a new life, a second chance. Now, this woman is healed. She's home. And her life looks very different. Every morning when she wakes up, she thanks God for the breath in her lungs. She watches the sunrise with a gratitude she never knew before. Every heartbeat is a reminder of the miracle she is living. Yes, she lost her precious babies, and that scar will forever be a part of her story. It's a pain that will never fully disappear. But through that unimaginable loss and her near-death experience, she gained something profound, a faith that is unshakable. Her body was healed, yes, but more importantly, her spirit was renewed. Her heart learned a truth that can only be forged in fire, that even in the deepest sorrow, even in the most devastating loss, God is still good. His love doesn't stop when our hearts are breaking. My dears, sometimes life takes us through valleys we never wanted to walk. We face storms that threaten to tear us apart. But even in the darkest places, God's light can still reach us. He can take broken hearts, weakened bodies, and weary souls, and He can make them whole again. This is Mama Ruth's Stories. May your heart be full of peace today, no matter what valley you may be walking through. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe for another true life story. Thank you for spending this time with me.